In this video, we are going to be looking at two major systems to bring heavy amounts of snowfall to the west and a lot of rainfall, possibly severe weather, to the south. Now, before we could get into the forecast, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new and turn on post notifications so you won't miss another upload or live stream on the channel. Let's start off with the cyclonic vorticity high up in the atmosphere. This is about 500 millibars up, so this is pretty high up in the atmosphere. This is where the low pressure typically sits. Now let's move forward here. As you can see, we do have a low pressure system that is bringing rainfall to the south right now, and we do have a flash flood watch out for portions of Georgia and Alabama due to some of that heavy rainfall kind of stationary right over that area. Now let's move forward. As that low pressure moves north and kind of weakens, we get a new low pressure forming around the mountains, and then that kind of forms right over to Kansas and Missouri, and then that heads into Illinois, where you are seeing some pretty strong vorticity, which means this could bring definitely a bit of rain to around the Midwest area. And as you move forward here, that moves into Michigan, possibly a major hurricane down here in near Mexico around October 13th. But as we move forward here, you're seeing a lot of very strong winds aloft coming from Nevada into Arizona. Very strong vorticity, cyclonic vorticity. Now, as you move forward here, this low pressure, again, another low pressure forms right over Colorado, and then that starts to move out into Nebraska. Very strong low pressure system, and this is the main system that is in the thumbnail. As you can see, extremely strong vorticity and an extremely strong low pressure system, and we due to this we're possibly seeing a severe weather outbreak around October 13th around Kansas and Oklahoma, and this is definitely gonna change here. But as you can see, we're seeing some very extremely strong winds aloft, and what that does is it brings possibly severe weather. If we do have some Cape and good dew points and temperatures, we could possibly see some severe weather. It doesn't matter if it's tornadoes, winds, or hail, but we definitely could see possibly a severe weather outbreak, a small severe weather outbreak over here in Kansas and Oklahoma. That moves northeastward into more of South Dakota and Minnesota, and you're seeing snow over here. We're going to look at the precipitation type model here in just a second. But as you can see, we're going to see some snow over here in more of the western portions of the states. We're also going to see possibly some severe weather and a lot of rain in more of this type of region, and we're going to look at that future radar in just a second. But this is kind of your track of the low pressure system. It moves into Canada. You're still seeing some snowfall. You're still seeing some rainfall over here in these states. But it is definitely moving out of the area. That moves into Canada, and you're practically not seeing any more impacts from that low pressure system. Here's the future radar, the precipitation type future radar. And as you can see, we're going to talk about this first low pressure system that forms around Arizona. As you can see, let's move forward here, and that low pressure forms more of around Oklahoma, Kansas. As you can see, bringing some very heavy rainfall to portions of the central United States around Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, Oklahoma. Could see some extremely heavy rainfall from this. Now, as you move forward, that rainfall kind of diminishes, but we're still seeing a lot of rainfall coming from this low pressure. There it is right there over Missouri around October 11th. You're still seeing a lot of rainfall over here in Kansas. You're seeing even reaching all the way down here into southern Texas. You're seeing a bunch of rainfall mainly with this low pressure system. Now, if it was cooler, if we did have some cooler air reaching down here from Canada, we possibly could see some snow in more of the northern portion of this low pressure system, especially over near Nebraska. But we're not seeing as much cold temperatures that we would see in more of October. We're seeing above average temperatures throughout the first half of October, and then we should see some more cooler temperatures moving in by the end of October here. That's when we'll actually see some winter storms impacting the upper Midwest. But let's move forward here. The rainfall moves into more of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and then by you get to around October 12th, and it kind of diminishes. You're still seeing a lot of rainfall over in Michigan now, Indiana, Ohio, even still reaching down all the way down here into Mississippi and Alabama. And as you move forward here, that kind of diminishes once again. And this is where the main system forms. Let's go ahead and go back a little bit here because we missed the first snowfall of the system. We're already seeing snowfall over here in Washington by October 11th, when this system is still all the way out here in the Pacific. That's kind of points how strong this system is going to actually be. And we're seeing a lot of snowfall here over in Montana, Idaho here, even reaching down into Wyoming a little bit. And this low pressure system is already at 996 millibars. That's typically a tropical storm strength if it was a tropical system. So this is definitely a very strong low pressure system starting off, and it kind of weakens a little bit. And the main low pressure system actually forms over here in Colorado, 991 millibars now, and you get to 985. And it's still down here in Colorado. You're seeing a bunch of snowfall over here in the mountainous areas of the western states. And this low pressure system moves way north here into Nebraska. Still a lot of heavy rain, snowfall, and very extremely widespread rainfall across the central United States, reaching all the way into Illinois. This system is probably around 1,000 miles wide. As you can see, this snowfall is reaching all the way up here in Canada, all the way down here to Texas. So that's about 1,000 miles. This is a very extremely large system here, and that system continues to move north as you see a very strong line of showers and thunderstorms moving into more of the southern and midwestern states. That may bring some severe thunderstorm warnings if we do have some good Cape values down here in Texas and Oklahoma. We may see some severe thunderstorm warnings coming out from some of those small supercells. As you can see, that low pressure system, that was from a major tropical system that is expected to form, possibly according to the GFS model down here in more of near the Mexico area in the Pacific. But that could also bring some heavy rainfall to Texas there. Let's go ahead and look at the total snowfall amounts coming from this. We'll also look at the total rainfall amounts coming from this very big storm system. Here is the total snowfall coming from all of these low pressure systems that will be moving through this type of area. Let's start off over here in now this is not totally smoothed out because we do have a lot of mountains in this area, so a lot of the snowfall is falling on these mountains. But more of these flatter areas, you're going to see around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. You're not going to see a lot of snowfall, but more of the mountainous areas, more of those high elevation areas, you're going to see a lot of snowfall, upwards of 24 inches. And more of the extreme high elevations, you're going to see up to 40 inches of snowfall in more of those mountains areas. Now, as you can see over here in more of the extreme western over in Washington, those snowfall is mainly in those mountainous areas, mainly because we are seeing not really cooler temperatures at the surface, but more of those higher elevations we're seeing extreme cold temperatures, and that leads to some of those big snowfall amounts, upwards of 2 feet of snowfall on some of those mountains. But once you travel a little bit out of those mountains, you're pretty much seeing just rainfall, and you may see some snowfall actually falling, but it won't accumulate due to those lower surface temperatures being more warmer. So that snowfall can't really accumulate as much. As you can see, more of these flatter areas, you're only seeing around a dusting of snowfall. And like I said, because more of those surface temperatures are definitely a lot warmer than more of those higher elevation temperatures. But over here, you are expecting to see around 1 foot of snowfall over in Wyoming and reaching into Colorado. Even Nebraska, the Dakotas could see some of that snowfall, upwards of 6 inches of snowfall. So definitely this is looking like a pretty decent major snowstorm event over in the western states. And we're not going to see much snowfall over here in the northern Midwest, at least until mid-October or even late October. We're not going to see much snowfall over there. But once you get into November, that's when you start seeing some of that major snowfall hitting some of those northern Midwest states in more of those November and December months. Let's look at this first low pressure system bringing a pretty big amount of rainfall. You're going to see upwards of 5 inches of rainfall over here in this type of region. Let me change the color here to black. As you can see, we're going to see upwards of 5 inches of rainfall over here in Kansas and Missouri. And more of localized areas, you could see upwards of 7 inches of snowfall. We're going to see a lot of flash flood watches, flash flood warnings coming out of this area. And then once you go into more of lower southern Missouri, you're only going to see upwards of 3 inches of rainfall in this type of area. Northeastern Oklahoma, you're going to see upwards of around 3 inches of rainfall also. So also more flash flood warnings are possible in those areas. Over in Iowa and Illinois, you're going to see upwards of around 2 to 3 inches of rainfall in this type of region. More localized areas could definitely see more rainfall due to more of those isolated pull storms. As you can see, upwards of 4 inches of rainfall over here in northern Indiana. And more of southern Indiana, you're not going to see as much rainfall. But you get to over here in Michigan when this low pressure starts to kind of diminish, and you're only going to see around 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. So that's the first low pressure system. Let's go to the major system here, and you are going to see upwards of 6 to 7 inches of rainfall over here in the Dakotas, and maybe even up to 9 inches of rainfall, possibly in more localized spots. Over here in Minnesota, you're also going to see upwards of 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. Again, in more localized spots, you could see more or less rainfall. It really depends here, but more southern in this type of area, it's kind of split. So this other low pressure system comes in with more rainfall, and it kind of fills in that spot. You could see upwards of 4 inches of rainfall in this area, and upwards of 5 inches of rainfall, pretty much this whole area, to give you a good idea of what you could expect from these big amounts of rainfall and these big systems moving through. And that tropical system over here in Texas, you could see a lot of rainfall from this, upwards of 7.5 inches in that little white spot. So there's going to be a lot of flooding within the next 2 weeks. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you won't miss another update or live stream on this major system. And also make sure to share this video with any friends or family that may want the latest updates on this major system that will be moving through the United States within the next 2 weeks. But anyways, stay safe.